This is Antonov Airfield outside of Hostomel, just outside of Kyiv. It's one of the largest airfields in the greater metropolitan Kyiv area, and it is one of the most important battles, in my opinion, during this entire war, because it is here where the Ukrainians blunted the Spearhead and kept the Russians from getting a toehold from which they could launch a very serious attack into the capital. And I couldn't do this just alone, so I've called in some assistance. Somebody you might very well know, Operator Starsky or Andrii. And
Nice
we'll have a little chat about what happened here and how the war's been going, and maybe a little bit talk about where we think things are going. So here's my report from Hostomel. So this is on the approach to the airport at Hostomel, and you can tell it's kind of an affluent area, and it's part of kind of a rich upper middle class region of suburban Kyiv that includes Airfield and notoriously Bucha, where the massacres happened, and then here Hostomel, and you can see the result of the fighting. Now, why did the Russians want Hostomel so much? It's because it's one of two, give or take three, airfields where the tarmac was long enough and large enough for them to land big cargo planes that could have carried armor and significant numbers of troops that could have spearheaded into the capital. That's why they fought so hard for it, first in those first few days by air assault, and then later by actual ground assault. And when the Ukrainians were able to hold them off, it changed the course of the war.
Никогда мы не будем братьями ни по родине, ни по матери. Духа нет у вас быть свободными, нам не стать с вами, даже сводными. Вы себя крестили старшими, нам было лучше.
That we cannot record, but still.
So Andrii, we're on Hostomel. Now you fought here, right?
Yes, I was fighting at the territory of my base. The airfield was protected by my guys, by two platoons of infantry and anti-air boys, and then during the fight another platoon, the reserve platoon, moved in as well. So basically this place was protected by around 100 men.
I wonder what you think would have happened if the airport had fallen into Russian hands. How do you think things would have gone?
First of all, you probably saw all that destruction in the area of Hostomel, Irpin, Bucha. In my opinion, all that we would see inside Kyiv, right? Inside Kyiv, in the area of Svatoshin, Novobilichi, so basically inside the capital city. And by preventing Russians from taking full control of this airfield and using the runway, basically we prevented plenty of casualties among civilians in Kyiv.
Yeah, and I also think it would have changed the narrative, right? I mean, because the second that the government survived, and I mean, it would have survived, I think, because again, I think the Russians trying to fight into Kyiv would have been disastrous for them.
Yeah.
But it would have been a different story.
We had two anti-air groups armed with manpads, and we had around 6 missiles. There were a bit more helicopters than that, but yeah, we managed to shoot down 6 helicopters, including 3 Mi-8 with troops on board.
Yeah, what was the fighting like for you? I mean, how close of a call? How much of a knife's edge was this battle? How close did the Russians get to actually securing things here?
They were pretty close, I would say, but they didn't take into account the artillery that we had. And I'm not only talking about our howitzers, because my brigade, even despite the fact that 90% of my brigade were already on the east on a deployment that day, but we still had 2 howitzers here. And also the 72nd Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine arrived to Hostomel from Bila Tserkva like 2 days prior to the invasion.
Is that because of the warnings from the Americans that there was an invasion? Or?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. And they brought a lot of their artillery, so we had huge concentration of artillery in this area, and we used it to destroy the runway, as well as concentration of Russian personnel at the airfield.
It's like 5% of the stuff that was left after the battle, huh? That's crazy. This has been, it's not even about NATO. It's not about denazification. All the excuses the Russians give. This goes back 200, 300 years.
Absolutely.
This is a long history where Ukraine has been under the thumb of Moscow, and they're finally free. Would you give that up, knowing that your children, your grandchildren, generations in the future are going to rely on what you, as a soldier in the Ukrainian military, does today? I mean, do you think about that when you are talking to your fellow soldiers, when you're talking to yourself about why you're fighting?
Absolutely. I don't want my kids to fight Russians in the future, okay? I don't want this destiny for them. So we have to finish it now and here in Ukraine.
I agree, and I think it's also really important that we think about this is the borderland to Europe.
Yeah.
So you're the line in the sand drawn between civilized Europe and a Russia that commits war crimes, that has rape squads, and doesn't have any regard for international law. As bad as the critics are for Americans who say about our invasion of Iraq or Afghanistan, we never tried to annex those lands.
Exactly.
Russia's trying to take this country and destroy the idea of there even being a Ukraine. That's why they've been fighting so hard for the last year. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
absolutely.
I want to give you the opportunity to talk to the folks that watch my videos. I mean, folks, you got to understand, this is not just a fight for Ukraine. This is an essential fight for the future of the world. And these guys are the ones fighting it. So I'd like you to just, why are you fighting against Russia? Why are you so resistant to fight against Russia?
Yes, because we want to leave. We want to leave. We want our children to be alive, okay? And we are attacked. That's what you do when you are attacked. You defend yourself. That's on the first place. And of course, we realize that if Ukraine is defeated, Europe is next. There's no doubt about it. You cannot negotiate Russia to become a different country, different, mindset and stuff like that. You cannot do that. They're terrorists, and you have to fight them. And that's what we do here. Basically, we're like European shield nowadays.
I agree. I was just wondering, Andrii, can you believe it's already been a year since this war started?
To me, it's like 380 something of February still. I cannot believe that the year has passed, but so many things happened actually. One of the most important things is that I found a lot of friends around the world. And actually, Ukrainian people found a lot of friends around the world. That is important. I think that's the most important thing that happened this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Biden was in Kyiv just yesterday. We're filming this the day after Biden was here. And it's just to show that I mean, a year ago, maybe a lot of people couldn't even pick Ukraine out on a map.
Yeah.
And now they're just standing shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
I get questions about how can I help, how can I support, and it's, I mean, if there's one thing, it's that Ukraine is now, standing on its own 2 feet with a lot of friends. I think if there's a good side to it, maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
I can't believe it's been a year.
Yeah. While this battle was happening here, there were 18 Illusion aircraft coming to Hostomel from Russia with troops and vehicles on board. And because they couldn't land here due to runway being destroyed by our artillery, they had to land in Belarus, in Homel, and make all the way by land to Hostomel, basically. And all those vehicles, remember that huge column coming from Belarus?
Yeah.
Basically, it was supposed to land in Hostomel. That's remains of that column, basically.
All because you were able to control the airfield at the very, very beginning. See, this is why I say you blunted the spear. And when you blunted the spear, the Russians didn't have a plan B.
Yeah, of course we didn't think about it this way back then. But yeah, now having all the information that we have now, yeah, I can say that it was probably important battle. I'm glad that we didn't lose any men, even though, the fire was very intense from those helicopters and it lasted for a couple hours. But we only had one guy wounded in his rear. He was able to run to his medic himself, and I'm happy that it finished the way it finished.
I think it changed everything. I really do. I think it was a really important battle.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing it with me. So that's Hostomel, folks, with Operator Starsky, who I'm proud and happy to have met face to face. So as I tend to end these vlogs, and you know what's going to happen. Slava Ukrainie!
Героям слава!
Героям слава! Вот так.
Вы огромные